Hi guys, welcome to Baka Burrito. I'm Devin,
I'm Diego.
And I'm Max.
and today we have a very special episode of Burrito Banter. We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite cartoon that might as well be an anime, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and The Legend of Korra. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about why Avatar: The Last Airbender needs Legend of Korra.
So make sure you guys leave a comment, just tell us what your bending is. Tell us if you guys got any creative ways of fighting. I just like to compare the two of them and come from a very unbiased, I do have a bias. I do prefer one over the other, I think. But I feel like Korra itself gets a lot of hate. It's not necessary.
Definitely.
But there are definitely really good, really aspects of the series that just aren't done well, and that make it a little slow sometimes.
That's fair.
And the same can be said for
exactly.
Avatar: The Last
I was
Airbender,
about to say that I do feel like some people regard Avatar as a perfect show, which it is not. But also, Korra is not a trash show. People are like, "Oh, Korra's garbage. She's a bad character. She's a Mary Sue," and she's absolutely not. And the show is not bad. Y'all bugging. Because I think there's some good things and some bad things. So, I think a big part of Legend of Korra being important to Avatar: The Last Airbender as an extended verse and not just a standalone series is the fact that it really wraps up some character arcs, especially with Zuko, Aang, and Toph in particular.
What's actually a problem with Korra that I recently rewatched it literally like last night. And do you remember when the Dai Li were abducting airbenders?
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
For some reason, they weren't brainwashing them. Now, is there a reason why they wouldn't brainwash them as opposed to brainwashing everyone else?
So what it seems like that technique may have been lost to history, because you have to remember who the Earth Queen's father was. You remember the dude with the bear?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's her father. And after his whole interaction, he became a genuinely good king. Like that part was implied. They put him back in power, and he traveled the world and learned about the world. So I feel like him specifically, he may have done away with that whole brainwashing stuff. Not the Dai Li. He definitely didn't do away with the Dai Li.
Dai Li was still chilling there. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
No. I'm not saying he did away with the Dai Li, but he told the Dai Li to stop doing it, and they actually stopped.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And then when his daughter took power, the first thing she did was eat the bear. And then she made the Dai Li corrupt again.
Yo, I just want to know, where did he go wrong with raising his kid?
Aang and Aang,
oh, man, we want to talk about...
and all of them, they end up not being the greatest parents to their kids.
So, that's another thing I want to talk about. People are like, "Oh, Korra made Aang and Toph character assassination. Why would Toph become a cop? Why would they both be bad parents?" So, here's the thing. I don't think that's character assassination. Last time we saw them, they were 12.
Me neither.
Me
neither, I don't think.
They were 12 years old. What 12-year-old can you look at and go, you're going to be a great parent? Like, So...
Aang was raised by monks, for crying out loud.
Yeah, Aang didn't even know his parents.
He was raised, they shaved his head and said he had to keep a shaved head.
Yeah, and Toph hated 12 years old.
And Toph hated her parents. So... one thing I want to address really quick is that Toph in Avatar: The Last Airbender is factually a stagnant character. But yeah, Toph becoming a cop makes a bit of sense. It's the same as the kids that were always in trouble in high school who become cops.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has those kids that were bullies in high school and became a cop.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
but some of them turn their lives around and they start upholding the laws that they used to break. That's just a sign of growth. But that doesn't mean she loves authority or anything like that.
Or
it
controlling
just means,
and stuff. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, because we see later on she goes right back to wanting to dissociate from everything. She goes and she lives in the swamp by herself.
Yeah. No, but I mean, but even then, I think she's had some minuscule moment of like character growth when the
Yeah.
episode where she's like scamming a bunch of people, and the scamming gets her in jail. So she's like, well, you
Well,
know,
like I said, very minimal. Because after that, her behavior doesn't change drastically. She just stops scamming people.
yeah, but she starts upholding the law, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I guess.
I feel like that could be a transition, like
Yeah,
she
very easily.
learns
Yes,
that it's not,
absolutely.
and then she's
Yeah,
like, oh, maybe there should be rules in place. Maybe we
or
should
some
follow.
some at least.
Yeah,
I think Toph gets her biggest development in Legend of Korra with her daughters, um, because we see Toph struggle between choosing work or choosing her family, and then she dissociates from her job and she tries to make reconciliations with the one daughter she felt she wronged, not even realizing she wronged the other one. Like Toph
yeah,
growing into a bad parent works thematically for Lin, Su Yin, and Toph as a character. I
yeah.
think it serves as a good basis for all of their characters. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, no, I agree because we really get to see like how she has not really changed since the original arc, especially when we first meet her. Like the way she is like the same old Toph. Like it's the one thing that I feel like hasn't changed from the original series is just how she looks at everything. She's still like that. I want to like she's not gonna rumble anymore because she's old and says like leave it to the kids. But like she's ready to go. Like she can rumble whenever she wants. She's still cocky. I love it, especially when she meets Korra for the first time. It's like she's seeing an old friend, and it brought a little tear to my eye originally because I'm just like, oh my god. I was kind of like not Mako, Bolin when he sees Toph, it's like, oh my god, it's Toph. Oh my god.
So the one thing I'll say about that though is I feel like Toph's character has the most development she ever had in Legend of Korra rather than in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because she has like we mentioned before, she has minimal character growth, but she is very much a stagnant character for the sake of the story in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it serves the story because she's well written. Stagnant doesn't mean poorly written; it just means that there's little development. Um, that's for the audience, not you
Yeah.
guys. And the thing about that is, I think that her being able to reconcile with people in her awkward way is very important because she was very much very not unable. I don't think unable is the right phrase, but I'm gonna
Unwilling.
correct. Yeah, she was very unwilling to apologize or reconcile with people if she felt that she wasn't wrong. And with her daughters, there were clear moments where she felt she wasn't wrong, but she did the best she could, and she tried to justify it. And clearly, she saw it affected her daughters in a way that wasn't how she intended. And you never get the "I'm sorry," but you get that vibe from her. You
You
know?
also get the
Yeah.
you also get that I'm still there for my family, even though I was a bad mom. I'm still
No,
there to
so
help break you guys out of jail while I'm at it.
some development for her also was how she's not as stubborn as she was before. Like, I mean, now she's like, how old is she? Like 90, 80?
Yeah, she's like old lady stubborn, not like tough stubborn.
Yeah, like when it comes to grudges, she just wants to let them go. She's like, like I've forgiven that and I can move on from like how things were and we could
Yeah,
just live, be happy. But
yeah.
so
She
yeah,
goes. She goes. Me and your sister reconciled, but you and I never could, or something along those
yeah,
lines. And like, she was able to really. She learned how to let bygones be bygones,
yeah,
especially with familial issues. I guess that comes from her having bad parents herself. Like they were overprotective,
yeah.
whereas
They
she,
kidnapped her.
yeah, where she gave her kids too much free reign. She never found that happy medium because she never learned that happy medium.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so I get it. I do get it, and I do like that for Toph's character from Legend of Korra.
yeah,
One thing I love is like when they're watching Tenzin, like talking about all the good times he had, for instance, with Aang. And like I know I'm changing the subject a little bit about
Yeah.
bad, but we're on the same subject of bad parents. But what I like is that we always look at Aang as like this person that was always trying to do right and doing good. But you see, like here especially, like he made some pretty bad mistakes, especially when it came to his kid. I get it's because his son was the airbender in the family, like that's his lineage. I get that. But like he kind of like ignored his other two kids, and you see that with how like Boomy especially reacts, saying like, "I can make you proud too, Dad. Did I make you proud?" And it just shows that he had the neglection issue because he was so focused on his dream.
Yeah. Like when he said clearly, when Tenzin was like, "Oh, you guys remember when we went to go ride the elephant koi or whatever?" Yeah, they didn't go, and so that wasn't for the culture. That was just a vacation. But yet Aang still didn't take them. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
So that's the thing though. I will say, like, a lot of his stuff is very, airbender oriented in the sense that it's like you need to learn how to be free and enjoy life. But those sound like fun vacations that a whole family could have enjoyed while you're teaching freedom,
Yeah.
And Aang being a bad parent works because
I don't think he's a bad parent. It's just
no, he is.
No, he's
he
not
is. I'm sorry.
He's a bad parent.
Neglecting 2 out of 3 of your kids.
What?
Neglecting 2 out of 3 of your kids is a bad parent.
He didn't neglect them,
Yes,
though.
he
Like
did.
he was giving them food. He gave them
That's
things.
not
They
true.
had
They
opportunities.
That's not true. They stayed with Katara.
Word.
What do
He
you
even-
mean?
he even abandoned-
Boomy has had so much adventures right now. Like it's ridiculous.
No,
Like,
Boomy had adventure because his dad wasn't around, so he joined the army.
Word. And then went off to sea.
Yeah, what I really like especially is just how you know that Aang defeated the Fire Lord, but then like there's this whole gap that starts getting filled in when you go to Legend of Korra, when you learn about how Aang did have a family and how he also wasn't the greatest dad. Like if we're gonna be honest here, this man will ignore 2 of his kids, and I get it's because Tenzin was an airbender and it's literally the only airbender besides Aang in existence, and he wants to protect his culture. But it shows the flaw that one of his major flaws that he has, especially as a father, in the fact he's so hyper-focused on the one child, he ends up ignoring and neglecting his other 2 children, which leads to issues they have, especially throughout the series. Like you see, they definitely have some daddy
and believable conflict too. It's not just conflict for the sake of conflict, which is something that I despise in a lot of series. But it's
Agreed.
like almost believable familial conflict
Agreed.
that would
Exactly.
occur.
Yeah, it's the way Kaya and Boomy came at Tenzin. They always bullied him and they picked on him because he got so much attention from their dad. So they were like, well, he got to know Dad, so we can bully him. Like it's fine. Like that's the trade-off.
And Boomy, you can see like though Boomy has like major issues because he goes off and like joins the Navy or whatever, goes off, has like all these adventures because he never got to have those with his dad, so he wanted to go have his own kind of freedom.
I will say though, it is implied that maybe not all of Boomy's adventures actually happened.
Oh no, they definitely all didn't happen. Like
no, maybe not.
Are
all.
you a believer of the Boomy?
No, I said
story?
some of them did not happen.
I am absolutely a believer in Boomy because again, he does show he has excellent potential even as a non-bender. But it's very important to remember the fact that he himself believed that he was the family failure because Aang wanted an airbender so badly. Like when
He's the only non-bender in the family.
Exactly. And I think that would have to be hard for any kid, growing up in a household where your dad has all of the elements and you don't even get one.
And your mom's over there as one of the greatest waterbenders, arguably.
I also like that avatars don't pass on all of the elements genetically. They can only pass on their natural element.
Which makes sense, though, because like imagine just having a bunch of kids running around with.
No, but
then they want to make the avatar special at some point.
Exactly. I mean, if the avatar could have kids of all 4 elements, but that's
that's why it's explained in the lore because Rava is the one holding the thing. He's not passing on Rava genetically. It's
exactly.
So that it makes sense why it doesn't pass on genetically too.
I absolutely agree.
So like one character that's the perfect example of character development is Zuko.
Man, he's starting heavy. Goddamn.
S tier character without a doubt. But you see him go from somebody who needs to capture the avatar to regain his honor, yeah, and continues on his journey throughout, like, failing, his father completely disowning him even more than we originally thought he could be disowned, to the point where he gets accepted by his father, thinking, yes, my dad finally loves me. No, he doesn't, but like that's besides the point. And eventually realizing who his real father is in reality, like air quote father, and actually realizing what his true destiny is, which is I must help the Avatar. But the one thing I love, though, and it's just my favorite thing about season 3, is when Zuko has to try and become friends with the Avatar's group. It's something I really
Yeah, that's a great scene.
I love it though, because I'm awkward as hell in social gatherings, so I totally was feeling every moment when he's like, "Hey, Zuko here,"
And he's talking to himself, and then he says, I think his line is pretty iconic. Why am I so bad at being good?
My
That is a
favorite's
pretty iconic line.
Zuko, you must find yourself to overcome yourself. Only then will you achieve true enlightenment. And he's just like, I don't even know what the hell he's saying, even when I'm saying it.
Yo,
How does that tie into Legend of Korra? How Zuko is
Yeah.
handled there?
Well,
Like,
Zuko's
why-
not brought
why
in a
does
lot.
Legend of Korra help Zuko's character?
Well, Zuko's not brought in a lot in Legend of Korra. Like, I would love to see Zuko every episode, but this isn't about Zuko in Legend of Korra, so here we are. But what I really do like, especially about like Zuko's like character, like, and it's also like shown in the comics, which aren't technically part of Legend of Korra, but you see how he starts to mature as a leader, where he has to make these hard decisions. And it's not the simple matter anymore for him. Okay, I want to end this war. It's not that simple anymore.
Well, then I'd argue, like, so Legend of Korra, what it does for Zuko is it shows him past that point. It shows him when he has matured, like, because he's at his oldest. So you remember the egg from, oh, Max, your screen's bugging. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So you remember the egg from, the golden egg that he grabs when he goes to see the original Firebenders?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says it's warm, it feels like it's almost alive.
Yeah.
That's his dragon.
Yeah.
From Legend of Korra, right?
Yeah. So the dragon he has in Legend of Korra is the egg he gets in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And we see that dragon has almost a bond with him the same way Fang had with Roku and Appa had with Aang. And, like, it's almost like he has a spirit companion, and he's not even an avatar. Like, Zuko is revered as this wise leader, this wise ruler, who was a kind king, and so much so that his family was still able to, lead the Fire Nation. You have his nephew, Iroh the Third, right? Iroh the
Yes,
Third.
the third.
Iroh the Third is the general of the joint Fire Nation fleet, and then you have his daughter, who's the current Fire Lord. And in a time of crisis, when he could be out there fighting, when Kuvira is out here declaring war on the whole world, he could be out there fighting. And when we knew him, he would have. He decides instead. He goes, no, I have to head back home and protect my daughter.
He's become more of an adult at this point. He has responsibilities, which is...
I'd hope so. He's 90 years old.
Look. Yes, he's an adult, but there's still the same awkward Zuko, though. Because my favorite moment is a small moment, Zuko, when they go down the into the ice prison, and they're talking about the Avatar. It's like, I once tried to kill the Avatar with a man that can make things explode with his mind. Didn't work, but,
I don't even think that's like... awkward. I think that's him genuinely embracing, like, I can be funny, I can joke about these things, I can talk about my mistakes. Because when we first see that transition, Zuko was never willing to talk about his mistakes at the beginning. He would never want to be, like, reprimanded or, like, corrected. And then when we see him as an old man, he's now like, yeah, I made this mistake when I was young, it's a little funny now.
No, but when he has, like, the atmosphere in that room, it's, like, the worst possible time he could bring up anything involving killing the Avatar, when you're gonna go literally check on a prisoner that's meant to kill the Avatar.
Yeah,
and
but
I just love it, though.
Yeah, but Eska's response is like, yeah, I did the same thing like last week, so...
Yeah,
just sitting there
the thing is, there was nothing awkward about that. He just told a joke, and it was funny. The rest of the people reacted awkwardly, because Eska doesn't laugh at anything.
And the other guy's the father of the current Avatar whose life's in danger.
Exactly.
But what I mean is Zuko is still like
and being an awkward situation, like making things awkward for people, has not changed, and I love it. It's just like that's the one core trait that I feel like he will never lose, no matter how hard he tries.
I guess.
That actually honestly brings me to one of the points I want to bring up. I'd like to compare the comedy between the two because I feel like the comedy in Korra might just be a little bit better when it comes to Bolin and Varric, Julie. You know, like there's just so much.
Well, if I can
So-
say there,
Hold
Go
on,
ahead, Devin.
1 second, Max. So I hear what you're saying, but I almost argue the comedy in both series is the same because it
Okay.
is the. I think the comedy is derivative personally.
You know,
in
what?
both-
I might agree with you simply because I was just trying to say a hot take, but
well, to make it
trying to make it a
simpler-
little bit more spicy. But honestly, yeah, I think I agree with you. Like the comedy is done very well in both series. I feel like they come at times where
well, I think that the comedy
need them.
is slightly different, just like in both series, like in terms of how they approach comedy.
I don't
sometimes.
because if you think about it, a lot of especially Sokka as comic relief, because Sokka is handled very well. I will say that. I don't love the character as a whole. I think he's very relatable, but I don't love him, as a whole. However, in terms of comic relief, him and Bolin are very, very similar. Like even down to the types of jokes they do. Like Sokka is the funny, smart ladies' man, and Bolin is the funny, less smart, but has his moments, ladies' man. Like like the first joke Bolin ever tells is him trying to get with Korra.
oh yeah, that is.
So like their comedy is very derivative, but that's also a subject of them being the same writers between the two series, except the one writer. Only one writer didn't return, I believe. I think we should mention that for Korra as well, because Legend of Korra was plagued by a bunch of production issues.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows is aware of the fact that they were removed from their Prime TV slot. They got hit with ridiculous edits shortly before deadlines. So they had to make quick last minute rewrites. So some of those do rear their ugly heads, and it was most prevalent in season 2, like we mentioned before.
They were like, well, we gotta do what we gotta do.
So there are some things that hold Legend of Korra back, but I do still think it's a great series because a lot of the issues aren't the fault of the show or the writers, it's the fault of the production and Nickelodeon.
Damn Nickelodeon.
Korra expands so well onto the universe.
I agree. Also,
Domestic.
the fact that Iroh just lives freely in the spirit world
Alright.
makes so much sense.
Word, 100%. Although I kind of I wish that Zuko got to say bye to Iroh. I really do.
I feel
Dude,
like he did, though.
No, they said he did. Zuko never had a chance to say goodbye.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wanted Korra so bad to learn, or just someone to learn how to fast travel in the spirit realm, because that seemed like the most useful thing. This man's here really just grabbed a dude that could tell if you're lying and then teleported him to the lost to the fog of lost souls. I'm like, yo,
Look.
you could just do that to every villain. Like,
Look, Diego, it's like
teleport
any
real
RPG, okay? You have to discover the location first, then you can fast travel.
quick.
No, but Zahir, but that's also that goes
I was
more
like,
into
man, why can't the good guys have this?
because Zahir was clearly the most spiritual person in that show, other than Janora.
We're
Or
flying around, being fully nothing holding him down.
Yes,
Just killing people.
I would even argue he's more spiritual than Iroh. Iroh's definitely wiser than Zahir, but
I would say he's even more spiritual than Aang.
yeah, I would too.
Yeah,
Because
1000%.
he couldn't fly.
Because Aang, you're right. Aang couldn't fly, and that's a showing of earthly tethers. And even if we're comparing, not even comparing, talking about releasing earthly tethers, Aang refused to give up Katara to master the Avatar state.
Yeah. I mean, well, at some point he obviously did, though.
Well, no, it was different. Like he did his little meditation, leaving Katara in danger, but then he was just able to do it freely, you know?
Yeah.
For everything that Avatar did right, like the handling of how childhood abuse affects both siblings, even the one it's not directed to, in
Yeah.
Zuko and Azula, the way social economic groups worked with the Earth Kingdom, the difference between Ba Sing Se and the rest of the Earth Kingdom. I think Korra expands upon that further, minus the child abuse part. But like the socioeconomics, that's all there in season 4.
Yeah, and it brings its own.
Exactly.
And it has 4 seasons dedicated to that, whereas
Correct.
Avatar
Yes.
might feel a little bit more natural because it's one big plot with a bunch of themes scattered in between. But Korra is almost like chapter by chapter. We're gonna be focused on this and this and this.
It's funny you say that too, though, because like it really seems more like especially when Toph is introduced in Legend of Korra, she said Korra's fangirling over how they beat the Fire Lord and took out that fleet of ships, and Toph is like, yeah, and then we did other stuff, as if to say, yeah, we did that, but it's not the single most defining point of our lives. You know, you saved the world one time, and the world's always going to need saving.
Okay.
So, I think a big part of Korra, like especially for the character, was learning to let the world be the world, like without her. And she was always there to try and save the world, but like a big theme is an extraordinary person trying to learn how to be ordinary.
Wait, you think she was trying to be ordinary?
Not trying to, she had to learn to be ordinary. Because go ahead.
Because it's the idea of this is a modern world right now where there are bigger problems that can't be solved by one person anymore. It's a situation where you can't take the responsibilities of the entire world and put it on your back and try to solve everything. And you can see that throughout the series. Like with the Equalists, that's something the Avatar can't handle on his own because it doesn't fix the underlying issues that started that movement.
That's also not true because she did actively make an effort. She did make an active effort after that to fix it.
But what I'm saying is
by
that
giving them representation.
Correct. Yes. What I meant specifically, Max, is more of along the lines of she has a quote in season 4 where they're like, well, all you got to do is go over there and beat her, and she was like, every time I've done that in the past, it's actively made things worse. She comes to terms with the fact that yeah, she's strong and she's powerful, but these fists can't solve every problem. You know, whereas in season 1, she was like, all right, you can run fast, but can you run this fade? You know, the thing with Avatar's storyline is because Aang ran away from his responsibilities, the world was out of balance. Whereas Korra is born into a world that's out of balance, but it's not because of her. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
it's already out of balance to begin with, just because of, it's not even just because of the Avatar's fault. It's more of social economic issues and other actual political issues that are caused by people in power and people that are restricted. Is that fair? And the one thing that I like, though, especially in the first season, what they did was with the whole equalist movement, it really gives you an idea of we're in a modern society right now where there are people that have a special set of skills that can bend elements that are in a higher demand, but then you have all these other people who just don't have any of that. And you really see the difference in standings in society when you were able to bend versus not.
I just love how bending still, even in Korra, they still find ways to make bending creative and unique and evolve it. You know, they're evolving it because now we have mixed children. now there's a lot more mixed children.
Mako and Bolin are literally siblings, and Mako is a firebender and Bolin is an earthbender.
Yeah. And so it would make sense for Bolin to learn lava bending,
Yeah, because his parents are a firebender and a earthbender. I love that.
So it's it makes you almost want to see more. You're like, man, I want them to make another one because in another 100 years, you know, there's gonna be water and lightning, someone that can zap their lightning or zap their water or something, you know.
The only thing I will say is I actually wish we had more offshoots. Because Legend of Korra actually only gave us one. It only gave us lava bending. as like a new offshoot to bending. Whereas in
Well,
Avatar,
also flying.
but flying was already established as a airbending technique. Like they could do it with equipment, but like
Yeah, but not. But the way
But-
that here does it is just different.
but that's not its own bending technique. That's airbending just to a higher proficiency.
But yeah, that's like I feel like that would be like the lightning.
No,
to
like you know what I will give it, the astral
Fire.
projection ability that Janora gets.
Oh yeah,
I'll definitely call that another offshoot. So we do get the two. Like
spirit bending.
Well, that's what it is because
Yep.
Korra is able to bend the spirit energy at the end to save Kuvira.
Wait, hon, just to be clear, that's something only air, like the here wouldn't be able to learn the astral projection. Is that spirit or is that air? Or is it air and spirit?
I think it's like I think the spirit is an offshoot from air. It's only headcanon, but no, we see no one else do it. You know.
Yeah.
And it would make sense that airbenders are able to do it since they're most in tune with the spirit.
Because she wasn't able to do it until she achieved, mastery. So
It's kind of believable how like a fire nation, people driven by power would want power. And then so I love how like a lot of people give flack to Legend of Korra for how it treated like traditional bending, like and sacred bending. So like I would like to say, so like how lightning was like a sacred form only the royals could do, and then in Legend of Korra, people are using it to industrialize, to energize their machines, and it's like the common person can now lightning bend almost, whereas an orphan, that's becoming a pro bending athlete can do this on the whim, and it's like I feel like
just to gain some money.
Yeah, just to gain some money, and it's I feel like it's realistic to how things are in the real world, where traditions are or things that are sacred are becoming less like they're being put down for efficiency's sake. Like we just gotta innovate and just do stuff. And I feel like Legend of Korra does the concept of bending really well, and
Absolutely.
it expands on it to the way Avatar did.
And it doesn't keep them in their boxes because, like we mentioned before, Su Yin, she bends earth and metal almost like a waterbender. She practices a lot of circular motions and such. And you have people using traditional firebending moves even if they're not bending, or if they're using earthbending moves. Like it's really cool how like they modernize everything so it's almost like a hybrid type of technique. And to go off that, the lore being expanded with the Avatar cycle with Wan, Rava, and Vatu was excellent because Wan as the first Avatar was excellent. Wan is probably the coolest Avatar to me. Right after Korra, actually. I'm gonna put Korra first.
I'll put Wan first, just because
he's the first.
Just because his design, I kind of like his hair. Want to see what his
almost like
hair.
Almost like he looks like you.
Gotcha. Maybe, I don't know.
Nah, but Wan is really cool
glass.
because he lived in a time where spirits and humans inhabited the same world, and he's the one that separated them after harmonic convergence.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool aspect because it explains why the Avatar is the bridge between the two worlds.
Yeah.
Because he literally closed the door.
We were told that in Avatar, and I don't want to say we didn't see it because Aang did a lot with spirits.
Yeah.
But it was like we were told that, but now we know why.
Yeah, and we were showed more. Like we were shown the whole entire interaction. He had real interactions with the spirits. He lived among them for years.
Yeah.
And
it almost builds on the Avatar's legend, and it gives more weight to the stuff.
It does.
More believable weight to what's going on with Aang.
It does.
And it's just.
And I think that it's really cool because of the fact that, so Wan gives us an aspect that shows us the Avatar cycle is exactly 10,000 years long. And it gives us a reason as to why it's like the Avatar state is compiling power. But we notice Wan wasn't weak when he fused with Rava. Because you have this good force and this evil force. For better or for worse, they were introduced in Legend of Korra. And they are in constant harmony. So if one is weak, the other one is strong, and if one is strong, the other one is weak, and vice versa. So we have the Avatar cycle going in essentially waves, starting with fire, you know, and then continuing on. And I think that for the first Avatar to have been a firebender, and the big conflict in Avatar: The Last Airbender to have been caused by the Avatar that was a firebender, I think that that's almost coming full circle, and
It's
clearly,
like kind of poetic in a way.
yeah, it almost is, because if Roku would have made a better choice, if Wan would have made a better choice, the spirit world would have never been separated from the real world, and if Roku would have made a better choice, the 100 Years' War would have never continued. And I think that's really cool because it shows that no matter who the Avatar is, they always make a mistake. Like, there's always something in their legacy that has to be undone or better done by the next generation or the next or later on down the line.
That tells to the
It's
strength
like
of the Avatar.
it's like yeah, no, that's your problem now, kind of deal. Like I passed.
Well, it's not.
away,
It's not. I don't want to say that. It's more
'Cause
like
it's not.
it's more like.
But that's what literally
my
happened with
dream-
Roku.
It's more like my dream is to make balance, and now I'm passing on my will, and that helped. And I feel like that was such a because it was like why should there be a bridge between the
Exactly.
spirits and
She
thing?
said
Yeah,
why-
like
Exactly. Her whole reasoning was, if there's no bridge, then the Avatar is just another person, and if there's no bridge, then the spirits are at peace and the people are at peace. It backfired at first because it was people
Yeah.
getting used to it,
it was change. Yeah, it was change.
and
Yeah.
and then once you're in the pro bending circuit and like with the main cast, they're using a more modern, you know, put your hands up type fighting style, and I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. Like, I never saw Aang throw a haymaker, but Korra is out here throwing that overhand right, left,
Yeah. And trying
like,
to uppercut people and stuff. Like it's
yo, Korra did a Superman punch and shot fire out of it. I was like, I love this.
right,
Yeah.
and it comes with the something that I think why Korra is almost a must watch for any Avatar: The Last Airbender fans is because it develops. Yeah, the characters develop, but the world it feels like the same world, but just developed. Like it's like it's
It's
like the world
modernizing.
building in it. It's just so great. Like I know some people give Korra flack because of the way they do bending.
I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is so good because it's a soft power system. You have benders who can bend the same elements and stuff, but there's clear distinctions between like their strengths and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just in their fighting styles too.
Yeah, that
Their
too.
fighting
Like-
style. Their fighting style is almost a power system in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like the girl in Legend of Korra that has no arms, but she has like water
She's not
arms.
played. She's not played. What's her name? I forget her name, but she's dope. She's voiced
Yeah,
by
and-
Minghua.
Yeah, and her fighting style is so different from how any other bender fights. So how are you gonna know how to counter her? So then that's why she's so powerful because she almost doesn't move like a human. She moves like someone
Like
with
an-
really long arms.
Like an octopus. No, and if you think about it, that's the technique that Katara was using in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the other one that she used to surround herself.
Yeah.
Minghua was able to combine the two because she had no arms. And literally, up until that point, we've seen in Avatar, if someone's arms are restrained, they can't bend. And she just took that and said, nah.
It's almost like no, but it's almost like she uses her water to bend more water. I don't know if
She
that's
does.
weird.
and
That's
exactly
what the whole
she
point of her
does.
ability.
Because she was able to make the tentacles and go,
Mm-hmm.
and she's bending other water and making ice hooks and stuff. And it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just like I feel like that's what's missing. The stuff like that is what's missing in a lot of anime.
And if you look at Zahir versus Tenzin, that's two very clear, distinct uses of airbending used differently.
Yeah.
And they had a fight, and we see the defensive stance being used in an offensive way to try and get an upper hand on this completely aggressive fighting style. And he does, but then he gets jumped, so
Yeah.
things like that, like,
But what I like especially though, especially with the Zahir Tenzin fight, is that we see
a different way of using airbending, because before that, all the air nomads, no one ever really had a violent thought. They were air nomads. They were peaceful people. I know they probably were, but what I mean is in the show Avatar and Korra, we never saw an airbender.
I mean, we only see 2. Well,
I know.
5, but still.
But, like, there really isn't any history of airbenders ever, suffocating people with airbending or using airbending in such an aggressive way. And what I think is really cool is, I'm like, there probably were airbenders that did that, but seeing it on screen, able to see like a different way that airbenders could fight and a different way that airbending can be taken is so cool to me.
And to go on that, I think it's really cool that his "let me suck the air out of your lungs" technique is very clearly not a combat technique. Like, he has to do it on someone who can't fight. Because we see in the, like, against the Earth Queen, she can't bend. So he's able to suck the air out of this old lady's lungs and have a whole monologue while he does it. But against Korra, he's not able to do it until she starts succumbing to the poison.
Yeah.
Exactly, and which I think is really cool, because that's something an air nomad would probably never in a million years be thinking of doing.
Oh no, all I was saying was, like, I like that it's a fatal technique, but it's not a combat technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and how they explained Amon's how he can take away people's bending is that he's a bloodbender and he uses Ty Lee's knowledge of chi blocking to bloodbend their chi to be blocked, and that's just like, it makes sense. It's like how he, there's no way he can spirit bend like Aang, so it's like, but that makes sense. Chi blocking and bloodbending, that combination would totally be able to permanently take someone's bending.
And I hate when people say that it's a plot hole that Korra was able to airbend after that, but it's clearly implied that each of the elements is on a different, like, chi network. So if he was out here just blocking the other ones, because at that point Korra couldn't airbend at all, so he wasn't even worried about it. So he blocked fire, blocked earth, blocked water, so she couldn't use it, and now she's left with only one chi network open, which would be air. And I think
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, again, that's headcanon, but it makes the most sense as to why he wasn't able to, like, she didn't just lose airbending as well. But yeah, I think that's real. Again, it's awesome. I like how that's expanded upon in Legend of Korra. Bloodbending was such an underdeveloped technique by the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender that I'm glad we got to see not one, but 2 villains with it. Oh, yes.
Because of the flashback, because of their dad.
Flashback, Yakon, yeah, you're right.
So
3 this man, though,
new concepts of it.
Can we recognize this man, Arcone, literally took an entire room and just dropped them all with bloodbending, and I'm like,
and it wasn't a room full of weak people. Toph was there, Aang was there, Sokka was there. I know Sokka's a non-bender, but still. And then the rest of the courtroom.
Yeah, and let's also recognize this wasn't during a full moon or anything. He did this during broad daylight.
Well, again, that's what the expansion of that lore, like, that's why it's notable, because they really expanded the techniques, because, like, we had the fact that bloodbending was there.
Oh, and they even expanded at how it would be in a court of law. They were like, the defense was that it wasn't a full moon on the night that he was claimed to bloodbend, so how could he bloodbend? And it's like that would definitely be used in court. Like, that's so great. Like, I feel like it's so developed well, and it shows us different aspects of the bending culture that we needed to see, or I wanted to see at least. And I think that's why the Legend of Korra is almost needed.
I agree, and it's not even that, like, each villain is stronger than the one that came before them, because there are instances where the villain that comes next is weaker than the one prior to, or a couple villains before. Like, I think Amon is one of the stronger villains in Korra. I think
he had bloodbending, like psychic bloodbending.
Although, like, you did have people who were able to physically break out of it, but we saw 3 people do it in total. We saw Amon break out of it himself against his brother. We saw Korra do it against Amon, and we saw Mako do it with one hand against Amon. Literally just one hand.
Yeah, Zahir might be able to do it, but
yeah. So I do think, like,
if Mako could do it, Zahir could do it.
I mean, but Mako could barely do it. That was my point. Like, so,
Yeah.
like, but I do still think Amon would have beat Kuvira. Amon would have. It would have been a hard fight between Zahir. I do think Zahir's the strongest of the four.
I think Amon just has hacks, honestly. I feel like Amon could pull out Zahir simply because he has bloodbending.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But Zahir was also a top tier fighter before bending. But regardless, besides the point, I'm saying like the stakes that they bring, like Kuvira as the final boss, makes the most sense to me because of the fact that what makes her threatening isn't the fact that she's like the most powerful bender. It's the fact that she's able to unify all these people. Like her name, the Great Unifier, and she amasses this army. Exactly, and she amasses this whole army where she has a 1v1 against the Avatar, and the whole army is rooting for her.
Yeah.
You know how dangerous that is? She's so charismatic.
Yeah, that's literally what it was. It was just, I feel like that's the most powerful. I feel like that's actually a theme that's touched upon in a lot of anime and a lot of just things in general. If you're charismatic enough, that might be the most powerful thing in the world, you know?
Yeah.
Be able to unify people.
It's similar to when Azula took the Earth Kingdom without killing anyone. Well, except Aang.
Without like killing like the Dai Li and like
exactly.
fighting.
She
didn't fight.
Yeah, exactly. She
Kingdom.
sat in a chair, and the Dai Li were like, "Yo, you know, it's kind of weird. We want to follow her."
Yeah.
And that's where we get her iconic quote, "Don't flatter yourself. You were never even a player." I was like, "Oh my god."
Damn, dude. Whatever happened to that dude?
Great question.
Probably lived out the rest of his days in fear. And
I think Legend of Korra is absolutely necessary for Avatar: The Last Airbender. They both work as standalone series. However, I feel like neither of them is complete without the other.
Yeah.
I could agree with that, yes.
Great way to put it.
All right, and on that note, guys, I hope you've enjoyed our video on why Avatar: The Last Airbender needs Legend of Korra. I've been Devin.
I've been Diego.
And I'm Max. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the video.
Leave a comment down below for what you'd like to see next, and tell us if you want to see more Avatar content, because we can get real specific.
Tell us what your bending is, you know, like
Ooh.
Yeah, like, you know, just leave a comment. What's your favorite bending? Which one would you wish?
And guess what our elements are.